The night I caught her was supposed to be just another networking event, cheap wine, fake smiles, and me waiting by the bar while she worked the room. But when Sabrina didn't return from freshening up, something in my gut told me to move. I found her in the wine cellar, pinned against the wall. Her boss's hands all over her. And she didn't push him away. That was the moment my life cracked in two. What followed wasn't just betrayal, it was war. The lies, the gaslighting, the arrogance of a woman who broke everything and still expected me to stay. I walked out with nothing but a suitcase in my spine. And when her world began to fall apart, when she lost her job, her affair, and the mask she wore so well, I didn't flinch. I watched it burn. Because some stories aren't about getting even. They're about getting free. This is mine. And if you've ever been lied to, used, or made to feel like you weren't enough, then this story might be yours too. Before anything else, I just want to say this, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. Thank you for clicking, for scrolling, for even reading this far. Whether you're here out of curiosity, heartbreak, or just a love for raw, unfiltered storytelling, your time matters, and I don't take that lightly. This story is more than just fiction. It's a piece of me, scarred and stitched back together. It's about betrayal, truth, and reclaiming your worth when someone tries to convince you you've lost it. And now it's time to dig in. Turn the page. Let yourself feel it. The tension. The anger. The heartbreak. The healing. Let yourself connect with the moments that feel too real, because maybe, just maybe, you've lived a few of them too. This isn't just a story of what was lost. It's a story of what was found after the wreckage. So grab your coffee. Take a breath. And when you're ready, really ready, start the journey with me. Let's begin. The night had started like any other alumni fundraiser, stale smiles, forced laughter, and wine that cost more than my monthly internet bill. I'd been to enough of these things to know they were just playgrounds for wealthy donors. But my girlfriend, Sabrina, said we had to go. It's important for networking, Alex, she'd said, slipping into a navy blue satin gown that hugged her curves like a secret. I thought she was trying to impress me. Now I know better. It was held at Silver Ridge Winery, perched high in the California hills, rustic elegance, with string lights and wood paneling designed to look expensive. I wasn't much for mingling, so I stuck to the bar, sipping scotch and watching the evening unfold. Sabrina was everywhere, laughing, touching arms, flashing that smile like she owned the night. Especially around her mentor, Carter. Tall, tailored, smug. A man with too many teeth in his grin and too much confidence in his touch. I'd seen the signs before, the way she leaned into him when she laughed, the way his hand lingered on her lower back. I just hadn't wanted to believe them. At one point, she excused herself to powder her nose. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. A flicker of something ugly stirred in my chest. I scanned the crowd, no sign of her. Then I noticed it, her phone. Left behind on our table, screen lit with a message. Carter, meet me by the cellar steps. 5 minutes. I can't wait. My breath caught. My hands went cold. The scotch curdled in my stomach. This was real. I moved on instinct, cutting through the laughter, the violin music, the scent of aged wine and lavender. Past the fire pits and into the narrow hallway marked staff only. Voices, soft, giggly, echoed from behind the cellar door. I pushed it open. And there she was. Sabrina. Her dress hitched up, Carter pressed against her like he'd won some kind of prize. His hands roaming, his lips on her neck. She wasn't resisting. She was hungry for it. I must have made a sound. Sabrina's eyes snapped to mine. She didn't look guilty. She looked irritated. Alex, she said, like I was the one who'd ruined the evening. Something broke in me that night, not loudly, but deeply. I turned and walked out, leaving them tangled in the shadows. I never looked back. His mouth was on her neck, and she wasn't stopping him. No, she was pulling him in, like she couldn't get enough. Everything inside me went still. My girlfriend. The woman I'd built a life with. The one who said she wanted to move in next spring. I must have made a noise, something between a gasp and a grunt, because Sabrina's eyes shot up. They met mine, sharp and clear. There was a flicker of surprise on her face. But not guilt. Not shame. Just irritation. Like I was the one who had ruined her evening. "Alex," she exhaled, smoothing her hair like she'd just been interrupted during a Zoom call, not caught making out in the shadows of a wine cellar. Carter stepped back, slow and casual, brushing dust off his blazer like this was all just mildly inconvenient. A sick, cold rage coiled in my gut. "Are you?" My voice cracked. "Are you serious right now?" Sabrina didn't blink. She adjusted the strap of her dress, glanced at me like I was some jealous teenager throwing a tantrum. "It's not what it looks like." Carter scoffed behind her. "You're really blowing this out of proportion, man." That was it. The last spark before the explosion. I moved without thinking. My fist connected with Carter's jaw, and he hit the stone wall with a grunt. Hard. He tried to stand, but I slammed him down, gripping his collar with both hands. The rage was boiling over now, my breath coming fast, my voice raw. "You think this is some kind of game? That's my girlfriend, you arrogant son of a..." "All right." Carter choked out, hands raised. "Let's just talk." I punched him again. Sabrina screamed and grabbed my arm, yanking hard. "Alex, stop. Jesus, you're humiliating yourself." I rounded on her, my fists still trembling. "I'm humiliating myself?" I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You're screwing your mentor at a charity event and I'm the problem?" She crossed her arms, the cold queen on her vineyard throne. "You're acting like a child." Carter staggered to his feet, blood dripping from his nose. "You're insane." I stepped toward him. He flinched. "Good. Try me," I muttered. Sabrina threw a hand between us. "Enough." But it wasn't. Not even close. "Both of you," Sabrina said sharply, stepping between us like she was breaking up kids on a playground. She turned to me, sighed like I'd just spilled wine on her dress. "We'll talk about this at home." I stared at her. "Talk?" She stood there, arms crossed, bored, like she hadn't just detonated my trust in a wine cellar with a man twice as smug as he was loyal. I inhaled. Deep, slow. My hands were still trembling. Without another word, I turned and walked out. Because if I stayed, I would have done something I couldn't undo. And Sabrina? I didn't even know who she was anymore. I stormed out of the cellar, fists clenched so tight my nails left little crescents in my palms. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Rage, disbelief, and pain, though I didn't want to call it that. The night was ruined. We were ruined. I pushed past smiling guests and waiters with trays of fig crostini and overpriced champagne. People laughed, clinked glasses, toasted the future. My world had just collapsed under flickering Edison bulbs and polished oak, and nobody noticed. I didn't stop to grab my coat. Didn't care. I needed air, space, distance. The cold night hit me like a slap. Sharp and real. My breath came fast, turning to mist in the crisp Napa breeze. I dragged a shaking hand through my hair and kept walking across the gravel path toward the valet circle. Sabrina. The woman I'd spent 5 years building a life with. The woman who kissed me goodbye this morning like everything was fine. Had she done this before? Was this the first time, or just the first time I'd caught her? My fingers trembled as I pulled out my phone. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Proof? An answer? A damn explanation? Alex? The voice hit like a familiar song in a silent room. Jake. He stood near the valet podium, a cigarette halfway to his lips, his blazer open, brows furrowed. My best friend since college. I didn't even realize he'd been invited, some deal between his firm and Sabrina's company. You okay, man? You look like you just saw a ghost. I let out a dry, bitter laugh. Worse. He stepped forward, flicked the cigarette away. What happened? I stared at him, throat tight, chest knotted, but the words came anyway, low and raw. Sabrina. She's cheating on me, with Carter. Jake's expression hardened. What the F? Caught them, I said hollowly. In the damn wine cellar. During the event. He dragged a hand down his face, jaw tightening. Jesus, man. Yeah. Jesus, indeed. Jesus, Jake muttered, pacing in front of the window with his drink. I knew Sabrina was intense. But this? Damn. I shot him a look, sharp enough to cut. You knew? He hesitated, shifting his weight. Not like this. Not this. But come on, man. You've gotta admit, she's been off for months. Cold. Distant. Like everything was your fault. My jaw tightened. Yeah. He wasn't wrong. I'd noticed the change. The fake smiles. The forced affection. The way she made me feel like an inconvenience in my own relationship. I just hadn't wanted to believe it. Jake sat across from me, running a hand through his hair. So, what now? You gonna torch her wardrobe? Call a lawyer? Sleep with her sister? I huffed a laugh, dry, humorless. I don't know, man. Truth was, I had no clue what came next. I never thought I'd be that guy. The fool. The one who got blindsided. And Sabrina? She wasn't even trying to reach me. No calls. No texts. Like I was an afterthought. Jake clapped a hand on my shoulder. Listen. You don't have to figure it all out tonight. Just, don't go back there. Not yet. He was right. The thought of walking back into our apartment, where her perfume still lingered and her wineglass probably still sat on the counter, made my stomach flip. Stay here, Jake said. Crash on the couch. Reset. I nodded, slow. Anywhere but home. By the time we got back to Jake's apartment, he didn't say a word. Just handed me a glass of whiskey. I dropped onto his couch, elbows on my knees, staring at the floor. My head was buzzing, but not from the alcohol. She really had the nerve to pull that stunt at a public event, Jake muttered, pacing again. Not even subtle. Like she wanted you to catch her. The thought hit hard. Had she? Was this her twisted version of honesty? Or had she just stopped giving a damn? My phone buzzed. A flicker of stupid hope. Maybe she regretted it. Maybe. Sabrina. I stared. Let it ring. Then the screen lit up again. We need to talk. I scoffed. Now she wanted to talk? Jake leaned over. You gonna answer? I shook my head. Screw her. But deep down, I wasn't just angry. I was broken. The why still clawed at my chest. Why him? Why there? Had she ever really loved me, or had it all just been convenience and charm? I needed answers. And the worst part? I had a sinking feeling I wouldn't like a single one. The next morning, I woke to the dull buzz of my phone on Jake's coffee table. My head throbbed from the whiskey. My mouth felt like sandpaper. But the moment I saw her name glowing on the screen, all of that disappeared. Sabrina. I let it ring out. A few seconds later, a text lit up the screen. We need to talk. I'll be home tonight. Home. Our home. Except it didn't feel like mine anymore. Jake walked out from the kitchen, 2 mugs in hand. He tossed one onto the couch cushion beside me. She still calling? I nodded. Says she wants to talk. Jake snorted. Talk? What's left to say? You saw it, Alex. End of story. I stared at the steam rising from my coffee. My fingers tightened around the mug. I just I need to hear it. From her. I don't know why. Jake shook his head slowly. So she can spin it? Tell you it was a mistake? That it didn't mean anything? He scoffed. It meant something, man. She did it where you could find her. That's not an accident. That's just who she is. He wasn't wrong. Every part of me knew that. But 5 years doesn't just evaporate overnight. So against everything I knew, I went home. The second I stepped through the door, I felt it, off. Cold. Hollow. Like I'd broken into someone else's place. Our framed photo still sat on the bookshelf, her hand in mine, both of us smiling like idiots. My stomach turned. I wanted to smash it. Instead, I poured a drink. Then the front door opened. Sabrina stepped inside like she hadn't detonated my life in a wine cellar. She set her bag down, ran a hand through her hair, and gave me a dramatic sigh. Like I was the one who needed explaining to. We need to talk, she said, crossing her arms. I leaned on the counter, swirling the whiskey. Go ahead. She hesitated, then lifted her chin. You overreacted last night. I laughed. Loud and bitter. Overreacted? I echoed. I caught you with your boss, Sabrina. In a wine cellar. At a fundraiser. Surrounded by your coworkers, I said, letting the weight of each word settle in the room. I took a slow sip of whiskey, staring at her over the rim of the glass. Tell me, Sabrina, what exactly was the appropriate reaction supposed to be? She rolled her eyes. Rolled. Her eyes. You always do this, Alex, she said, arms folded like she was the one defending herself. You make everything into a disaster. It wasn't even a big deal. My glass slammed onto the counter so hard she jumped. Nothing? My voice was low, tight. I saw his hands all over you. I saw your lips on his neck. I heard you giggling like a damn teenager sneaking off with the quarterback. She sighed, as if I was exhausting her. It was a mistake, okay? A stupid, meaningless mistake. I tilted my head. A mistake is forgetting to lock the door. What you did was a choice. I was drunk, she shot back. I didn't know what I was doing. It wasn't serious. I laughed, hollow, bitter. You were sipping wine, Sabrina. Not pounding tequila shots. You knew exactly what you were doing. Her face twisted into something cold. Why are you acting like I killed someone? It was just fooling around. Jesus, Alex. You act like I had some full-blown affair. That word hit me like a gut punch. Affair. I took a breath, steadying the storm in my chest. My fists clenched around the edge of the counter. How long? I asked, voice gravel thick. She blinked. What? How long? She looked away, suddenly interested in the hardwood floor. It doesn't matter. My hand came down hard on the counter. How long, Sabrina? She flinched. Then, slowly, a few months. My stomach dropped. Months. Every late night, every distant conversation, every fake smile, him. I should have left right then. Grabbed my keys. Walked out. But I had to ask. I needed to know why. Why him? Her expression twisted again. I don't know. Maybe because he actually listens. Maybe because he makes me feel wanted. Like I'm not just some checklist. She shrugged. And maybe because he's exciting. That word again. Like a blade to the ribs. Exciting. I tightened my grip on the glass, jaw locked. She didn't even flinch. Come on, Alex, she said, arms folded, her voice cold and careless. Let's not pretend things between us were great. Maybe if you weren't so boring, so predictable, I wouldn't have needed to look somewhere else. I saw red. But I didn't yell. Didn't throw the glass. Didn't lose control. I just smiled, A slow, calm smile that made her shift where she stood. "What?" she asked, suddenly unsure. I took another sip of whiskey, letting the burn settle deep. "I was ready to hear you out," I said, my voice disturbingly calm. I was actually ready to believe it was just some dumb mistake. I set the glass down, walked toward her. "But now? Now I get it." I stared her down. "You're not sorry. You don't even feel bad." She opened her mouth to argue, but I didn't give her the chance. "You're just a selfish, lying piece of trash, Sabrina." Her expression twisted, flipping from guilt to rage in a heartbeat. "Screw you, Alex. I don't need this. You're not some poor victim, you haven't been a good boyfriend for a long time." I let out a breath and nodded. "You're right." That stopped her. Her eyebrows lifted. "I wasn't a good boyfriend," I said. "Because if I had been, I would have realized who you were a long time ago." She scoffed. "Oh, spare me." I turned and walked toward the bedroom. "Where are you going?" she called after me. I didn't stop. "To pack." Behind me, she let out a dramatic sigh. "You're being ridiculous." I paused in the hallway, glanced at her over my shoulder. "No, Sabrina. I'm done." And for the first time, I saw it, panic, flickering behind her eyes. But it was too late. She'd already lost me. And she had no one to blame but herself. I yanked my suitcase down from the closet shelf, clothes tumbling around me as I shoved shirts and jeans into the bag like my hands had a mind of their own. Behind me, her voice rose, sharp and defensive. Not apologetic. "Seriously? You're really doing this? Running away like a little bee **ch?" I let out a dark, bitter laugh. "You cheated on me, Sabrina. And I'm the bitch?" She leaned on the doorframe, arms crossed like she wasn't the one who torched everything we built. "Unreal. I made a mistake, all right?" Sabrina snapped, her voice rising with frustration. "And yeah, I could have handled it better. But you're blowing this way out of proportion. You think I'm overreacting?" I zipped up my suitcase and turned to face her fully. "You threw away 5 years the moment you decided to spread your legs for your boss." Her mouth tightened into a hard, bitter line. "You don't have to be such an **hole about it." I took a slow step closer, my voice low and razor sharp. "Sabrina, do you even hear yourself? You cheated. You lied. You disrespected me in ways I didn't even think were in your nature. And instead of owning up to it, instead of begging me to stay, you're standing here calling me an **hole? She rolled her eyes again, like I was being dramatic. "Let's be honest, Alex. We weren't perfect. You were always so predictable. So boring." There it was again. That word. Boring. Like being steady and loyal was some kind of character flaw. "So your answer," I said through clenched teeth, "was to **k your boss?" Her lip curled. "You know what? Yeah. Maybe it was." Something inside me cracked wide open. I turned, grabbed the framed photo from our last vacation, smiling on the pier in Mendocino, and hurled it across the room. The glass exploded against the wall, a mess of splinters and memory. Sabrina jumped back, startled. "Jesus, Alex." I pointed at her, my chest heaving. "You don't get to rewrite this. You don't get to act like I drove you to this. You made a choice. You decided I wasn't enough for you. That I wasn't exciting enough." I stepped closer. "Well, guess what, Sabrina? I'd rather be boring than a lying, self-absorbed cheat." Her face twisted into something ugly. "You think you were some kind of saint? Maybe if you'd actually paid attention to me, I wouldn't have needed to look somewhere else." I exhaled sharply, head shaking. "You really are something else." She sneered. "What now? Gonna crash at Jake's place like a pathetic little puppy?" My hand tightened around the suitcase handle. "I don't care where I go. As long as it's far away from you." She crossed her arms. Fine. Leave. I met her gaze, cold and unwavering. Oh, trust me, I wouldn't expect you to cry over anyone but yourself. I pushed past her, heading for the door. But then, her voice stopped me. You know, she called after me, her voice smug and full of poison, you'll never find someone better than me. I froze for half a second. Then I turned slowly, taking one last look at the woman I thought I knew. And I smiled, but not the way she expected. Not broken. Not defeated. A smile full of clarity. Freedom. Sabrina, I said calmly, anyone would be better than you. Her smirk twitched, faltered just slightly. I didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me hesitate. I turned away, opened the front door, and shut it behind me with a slam that echoed down the hallway. Just like that, I was done. The cold air outside hit me like a reset button, sharp and cleansing. My pulse still pounded in my ears, my hands shaking, not from fear, not even from anger anymore. From adrenaline. From release. I tossed my suitcase into the back seat of my car and slid into the driver's seat. My hands gripped the wheel until my knuckles turned white. And then, for the first time since this nightmare began, I exhaled. A full breath. Deep. Unclenched. It tasted like freedom. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't have to look, I knew. Sabrina, you're making a mistake. I stared at the message, then let out a quiet laugh. The same kind of laugh you give when you've already made peace with the truth. I blocked her number. No hesitation. No second thoughts. The moment I saw her in that wine cellar, it should have ended. This time, I ended it. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat, started the engine, and backed out of the driveway. No final glance. No cinematic pause. I didn't know where I was going. And for once, that didn't scare me. Because anywhere was better than where I'd been. I drove. No music. Just the hum of the tires on the road and the wind outside. My hands? Steady. My heart? Quiet. The rage was gone. What was left behind was colder. Cleaner. Resolved. I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't lost. I was done. Her face crept into my mind again. That arrogant look. Like I was the fool. A few months, she'd said, like betrayal on a schedule was less betrayal. I pressed harder on the gas. I'd spent 5 years with a woman who never saw me. She wouldn't get another second. Jake was right. I should have walked out the second I saw them in that cellar. Should have saved myself the humiliation, skipped the excuses, the gaslighting, the pathetic scramble she called a justification. I should have shattered more than a framed photo. The thought made me smirk. Maybe it wasn't too late. The idea came so fast, I barely had time to process it before it settled into place, solid, satisfying, inevitable. I slowed the car and pulled over at the edge of an empty rest stop. My fingers gripped the phone. Scrolling through old contacts, I found a number I hadn't touched in years. Melissa Langston. Carter's wife. I hit dial. 2 rings. Then a sleepy voice, hello? I took a breath. Melissa? A pause. Yes. This is Alex, I said. Sabrina's ex. There was a longer silence this time. Her voice dropped, wary. Oh. Hi, Alex. Is everything okay? I nearly laughed. Not even close. But I think you and I need to talk. 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from her at an all-night diner just off the highway. She wore old sweatpants and a Stanford hoodie, her hair pulled up, makeup-free. Exhausted but alert. When she saw my face, her guard went up. What's going on? She asked, both hands wrapped around a coffee mug. I leaned in. It's about your husband. I didn't need to say another word. I watched her face shift, confusion, denial, realization. Her fingers tightened on the ceramic. "No," she whispered. "No. He wouldn't." I unlocked my phone and handed it to her. The photo glowed on the screen, Sabrina and Carter, wrapped around each other like no one else existed, hidden in shadows but caught in the act. Melissa gasped. Then she laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "That son of a bitch." I raised an eyebrow. "So, not shocked?" She exhaled, eyes still on the photo. "Let's just say I've had suspicions. But I never had proof." I nodded and pocketed the phone. "Well, now you do." Melissa leaned back in the booth, staring blankly at the ceiling. "Unbelievable," she muttered. But I could tell, she believed it. And for the first time all night, I wasn't the only one who had been lied to. "God," Melissa muttered, shaking her head. "I feel like a damn idiot. I've spent the last few months convincing myself I was just being paranoid." She looked down at her coffee, swallowing hard. "That maybe I was overthinking things, imagining stuff." She glanced back up at me, voice flat. "And all this time, he was screwing your girlfriend." I let out a dry chuckle. "Well, looks like we're in the same sinking boat." Melissa nodded slowly. Her jaw tightened, but when she met my eyes again, there wasn't any sadness left. Just fury. "So," she said, voice clear now. "What are you gonna do?" I smirked. "Divorce. Or whatever the non-married version of it is. Cut her out. For good." She arched a brow. "You sure? Because Sabrina seemed pretty confident you'd forgive her." "Eventually." My jaw flexed. "Yeah, well, she was wrong." Melissa tilted her head, eyeing me for a second. Then she smiled, the kind of smile that meant trouble, for the right people. "You know," she said, stirring her coffee, "if we really wanted to ruin their little fantasy world, we could hit them where it hurts." I leaned in, interested. "Go on." She grinned. "I'm taking half of everything Carter owns. And I'm making damn sure he loses his job before the ink dries." I let my own grin spread. "As for Sabrina, I was thinking of making her life a slow burn before I walk away completely." Melissa raised her mug like a toast. "Now that sounds like a plan." We clinked cups and drank. And for the first time in weeks, something inside me loosened. It wasn't peace, but it was damn close. I didn't go home. I went back to Jake's apartment. That other place, the one I used to call ours, was done. I tossed my keys on his kitchen counter and exhaled, mind buzzing with everything Melissa and I had mapped out. Then my phone buzzed again. Sabrina. I stared at the screen, jaw tightening. I picked up. "What?" Silence. Then a sniffle. Now she wanted to cry? "Alex," her voice shook. "Please. Just come home. We can fix this." I leaned against the counter, rubbing my jaw. "You don't get it, do you?" She sniffled again. "Get what?" I smiled. "Cold. Calm. I'm not coming back. Ever." She gasped, like I'd just punched her. "You're really gonna throw all of this away?" I chuckled, cold. "No, Sabrina. You did that." Then I hung up, turned off my phone, and walked away. The next morning, I woke to the smell of bacon and coffee. For a second, just one, I forgot everything. My brain tried to tell me I was home, that I'd roll over and see her in the kitchen, pretending like nothing had happened. But then the truth crashed in. I was on Jake's couch. My suitcase half-zipped beside me. The blanket still tangled around my legs. And Sabrina? Probably still in that apartment, in our bed, scrolling Instagram like her world hadn't just imploded. I sat up with a groan, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. Jake walked in, coffee in one hand, a paper plate of scrambled eggs in the other. "You look like hell." "Feel like it too," I muttered, taking the coffee he handed me. He sat down across from me. "So? What's the plan?" I sipped slowly. Melissa and I are taking them down. Jake's eyebrows jumped. Melissa? As in Carter's wife? I nodded. Met her last night. She's not messing around. He grinned. Damn. I like her already. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. She's calling a lawyer first thing Monday. Wants to take him for everything. And you? Same, I said. Burn it all down and start over. Jake chuckled, shaking his head. Man, I never thought I'd see you fight back like this. I cracked a smirk. Turns out I'm not as boring as Sabrina thought. He laughed. So what's next? I exhaled. I've got to go back. Grab the rest of my stuff. Jake's smile faded. You sure that's a good idea? I don't have much of a choice. An hour later, I was standing outside our old apartment door. My fingers hovered over the knob. Just being there made my stomach churn. But I wasn't leaving anything behind. Not with her. I stepped in. She was curled on the couch in an oversized tee, scrolling like it was just another lazy Sunday. She looked up, sighed. Oh, you're back? I didn't answer. Just walked to the bedroom and grabbed another suitcase. She followed, arms crossed. So that's it? You're just leaving? I didn't look at her. I already left. She scoffed. You're being ridiculous, Alex. I zipped the suitcase, turned to face her. My voice flat. No, Sabrina. I'm being done. You know what's actually ridiculous? I said, jaw tight. Me thinking you were a decent human being. Sabrina rolled her eyes. Oh my God, are you still on this? I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. You cheated on me. 4 months, Sabrina. Lied to my face. Dismissed me like I was some background noise in your perfect little drama. And now I'm overreacting? She crossed her arms, giving me that same smug look from the night I caught her. Look, I get it. You're pissed. But eventually, you're gonna have to let it go. I laughed, dry and bitter. Let it go? She shrugged. Yeah. I mean, come on, Alex. You were never exactly exciting. I needed more. That was it. The moment I knew. There was nothing left to salvage. No apology coming. No regret. Just this, pure, selfish entitlement. I stepped in close, lowering my voice to a whisper. You're right, Sabrina. She blinked. Wait, what? You're right. I was boring. I slung my bag over my shoulder, meeting her gaze head-on. But boring guys? They don't stay with cheating trash. Her mouth dropped open. You absolute. Save it, I cut her off. You had your chance. You know what, Alex, she snapped, face twisted in rage. You were a garbage boyfriend anyway. No ambition. No fire. Maybe if you'd grown a spine earlier, I wouldn't have needed someone else. I smirked. Well, lucky for me. I've got one now. And I walked out without looking back. 2 days later, her little fantasy world started to collapse. Melissa wasn't bluffing, she had the top divorce attorney in LA. By noon, Carter was served. By 3, HR had gotten involved. Workplace affairs were a major policy violation. Especially between a married exec and a direct report. By 5, he was put on administrative leave. Later that night, I got a text. Melissa, he's screwed. Fired by next week. I grinned. Me, good. Hope he enjoys free time. Melissa, and Sabrina? Before I could reply, another message flashed across my screen. Sabrina, I need to talk. Please. I exhaled slowly. Me, too late for that. Sabrina, Alex, can we just meet? Me, I'd rather set myself on fire. Sabrina, don't be like this. I tossed my phone on the table and shook my head. Some lessons come too late. Jake glanced up from his beer, one eyebrow raised. She begging yet? I smirked. Oh yeah. For once, he said, lifting his bottle, I'm glad to hear it. And for the first time in a long time, I actually agreed. A week passed. Sabrina's texts slid from apologetic to frantic. It started with the usual. We can fix this. I made a mistake. I still love you. Then came the guilt trips. You're really doing this? You're throwing everything away? You're ruining my life, Alex. That one made me laugh. I was ruining her life. She tossed our relationship like it was a worn-out hoodie, and now she wanted to cry about it. I didn't answer. Not to her texts. Not to her calls. And definitely not when she showed up outside my office building like a soap opera extra, standing by my car with her arms wrapped around herself and those same practiced sad eyes. Can we just talk? She pleaded. I unlocked my door, not even slowing down. We've said everything. She reached for me, fingers wrapping around my forearm. Alex, please. I need to explain. I pulled my arm back. You already did. Loud and clear. You wanted more, remember? Tears welled in her eyes. Real or rehearsed, I didn't care anymore. Alex, I cut her off. Let me make something real clear. The only reason I haven't gone scorched earth is because I want this divorce clean. Fast. I leaned in just enough for her to feel it. So, if there's 1 ounce of self-respect left in you, stop calling me. Stop showing up. And stay out of my life. She blinked, lip trembling. For a split second, I thought she might apologize. But no. Her face twisted. You're such a cold-hearted bastard. I smirked. There she is. The real Sabrina. Then I got in the car and drove off. 3 days later, I was at Jake's again when Melissa called. Her voice buzzed through the speaker, lit with mischief. You're not gonna believe this, she said, practically purring. What happened? I asked, putting her on speaker. Jake leaned in. Carter? Melissa said. Fired. Tomorrow morning. Jake let out a low whistle. Damn. That was quick. Melissa laughed. Oh, and guess who's going with him? I blinked. Wait, Sabrina? She laughed again. You didn't think she'd get away clean, did you? I sat back, stunned. Honestly. I thought she'd just get a slap on the wrist. Nope, Melissa said, voice smooth with satisfaction. Turns out, screwing your married boss while working under him makes you a major HR liability. Since Carter's getting fired, they don't want Sabrina hanging around either. I stared into my beer, trying to process the words. Sabrina. Fired. She'd built her whole identity around that job. The designer heels, the corner office, the overpriced iced lattes, the constant status updates from airport lounges. She loved that life. And now? Gone. Jake let out a low whistle. Damn. Karma moves quick these days. I exhaled slowly. Guess that explains why she's been blowing up my phone again. Melissa chuckled darkly. She's probably hoping you'll feel bad. I snorted. Yeah. Not a chance. The line went quiet for a second. Then Melissa's tone shifted, calmer, more serious. Alex. Just, be careful. I frowned. What do you mean? I mean, she's spiraling, she said. People like her, they don't know how to handle losing. Not really. And when someone like Sabrina realizes she has nothing left to lose. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. I rubbed my jaw, thinking. Sabrina had always been a master manipulator. A woman who landed on her feet no matter how messy the fall. But this time? No job. No Carter. No me. And that made her unpredictable. Dangerous, even. 2 nights later, I learned just how right Melissa was. It was 2:04 a.m. when the banging started. Loud. Relentless. Fists slamming into the front door like she meant to break it down. I groaned, rubbing the sleep from my face. What the hell? Jake was already at the window, peeking through the blinds. His jaw clenched. It's her. I sighed. Jesus Christ. More pounding. Alex. Open the damn door. I rolled over on the couch. Ignore her. Jake gave me a tense look. She's losing it, man. Then came the crash. We both froze. I shot up. What the hell was that? Jake moved to the window, cursed under his breath. No freaking way. I was already on my feet. What? He turned. She just launched a rock at my car. I stormed toward the door, fury rising, but Jake grabbed my arm. Alex. Think. I exhaled sharply, fists clenched, trying not to lose it. She's unhinged, Jake muttered, peeking back through the blinds. But if you go out there now, she'll spin the whole thing. Say you hit her. Call the cops. You know how she operates. I clenched my fists. He wasn't wrong. Sabrina was unraveling and dangerous when cornered. Instead of taking the bait, I grabbed my phone and called the police. Outside, she was still yelling, slamming her fist against Jake's door, her voice hoarse and shrill. 10 minutes later, red and blue lights lit up the street. I stood at the window as the cruiser pulled up. Sabrina turned around just in time. Her entire demeanor flipped. The fury drained from her face. She gasped, clutched her chest, and stumbled like she'd just been assaulted. Jake raised an eyebrow. Wow. Full soap opera mode. One officer stepped up to her, speaking low and calm. Sabrina sniffled, dabbing fake tears away, pointing toward the apartment. I shook my head. She's really trying to play the victim. Jake smirked and held up his phone. Good thing I recorded everything. The moment the officers mentioned filing charges and asked to review the footage, Sabrina's crocodile tears disappeared. She stepped back, crossed her arms, and glared at me like I was the one who'd betrayed her. She knew it was over. And I'd never felt more at peace. The next day, the official divorce papers came in. Final draft. My lawyer called it a clean break, no alimony, no settlements, and definitely no reconciliation. Sabrina tried to call one last time. I let it ring. Then blocked her number for good. And just like that, after years of chaos and compromises, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom. The last step was making sure there were no doors left open. My lawyer said we had her pinned: workplace policy violations, emotional misconduct, the meltdown at Jake's place, all of it stacked against her. I wasn't just moving on. I was walking away clean. I didn't check in. Didn't ask how she was doing. In my world, Sabrina no longer existed. But then, a month later, Melissa called. You're gonna want to hear this, she said, amusement bubbling in her voice. I put her on speaker. What now? She's spiraling. No one in the industry will hire her. Blacklisted. Last I heard, she's working in some rundown cafe downtown. Jake let out a whistle. Guess that corporate ladder she climbed wasn't worth it. Melissa laughed. She's miserable. I leaned back and exhaled. Good. Good, I said, a slow grin tugging at my lips. Melissa hummed. And Alex? You'll love this, Sabrina's dating again. Jake snorted. Oh, this ought to be rich. I rolled my eyes, already bracing for the drama. Anne. Melissa's grin was practically audible through the speaker. Guess who she's with? I frowned. Who? My idiot ex-husband. I blinked. Then I laughed. Hard. Jake nearly fell off the couch, pounding the coffee table. No way. That's too damn good. Yup, Melissa said smugly. Two narcissists, stuck with each other. Honestly? It's kind of poetic. I shook my head, still chuckling. They really deserve each other. Melissa sighed, but it wasn't sad. Just satisfied. Yeah. They do. There was a pause, then her tone softened. So, how's life, Alex? I leaned back, took a sip of my beer, and let the question settle for a second. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was drowning in someone else's expectations. Didn't feel like I had to shrink myself to be tolerated. I wasn't second-guessing every word, every step, every moment. I was free. I smirked. Life's good, Melissa. Really good. She chuckled on the other end. Glad to hear it. We said our goodbyes, and I ended the call, setting the phone on the coffee table. I stretched, the quiet of Jake's place feeling oddly like peace instead of an empty gap. Jake glanced at me, still grinning. So, what's next? I thought about that. About finally doing things for myself. About the version of me that didn't exist in anyone else's shadow. I turned to him, grinning back. Whatever the hell I want. And I meant it. If you've made it this far, then you've walked every broken step with me, every gut punch, every betrayal, every sleepless night. And if you're still reading, then I've got a favor to ask, stand with me. Drop a comment. Share your thoughts. Tell me I'm not the only one who's felt lost, used, or unseen by the person they gave everything to. Because no one talks about this side of love, the version where loyalty isn't enough, and walking away becomes the only way to breathe again. Let me know what you think of the choices I made. Would you have done the same? Should I have stayed calm when Sabrina showed up at 2 a.m., or would you have lost it too? Would you have exposed her, blocked her, or taken revenge? I've made peace with my path, but hearing from you makes the pain feel less isolated. So speak up. I'm listening. And if you're in your own version of this story, if you're lying awake wondering why you feel so small next to someone who claims to love you, get out. Your peace is worth more than someone else's approval. Your loyalty should never be rewarded with betrayal. And never, ever let someone convince you that being boring means you're not worthy of being chosen. You don't need to stay to prove you tried hard enough. You're allowed to leave for no other reason than because you deserve better. Because you are better. So here I am. Standing up. Scarred, sure, but not ashamed. And if you're ready to do the same, then welcome to your reset. Let's stop surviving and start living. You with me?